So there's this question that keeps popping up, and no matter what I read, I don't know if it's just something that's popular right now, or if God is just putting this in my way so that I have to stumble over it until I confront it. And that is, the question that's being asked is, what is something that you believed 5 years ago that you no longer do? That's something you no longer adhere to, or maybe you've had a total change of mind, or at least a change of mind to some degree, right? And I had to think long and hard about this, because I believe a lot of things, just like you, and to change what we believe, especially the longer we've believed it, the harder it is to turn that ship in a different direction. So I've thought about it for a short time. It's not like I've brooded over it for time immemorial, but nevertheless, I'm not sure that my answer is absolutely correct here in some ways. And more I think about it, I might come up with something different. I don't really know. But here's what I thought about, at least in the short term, and that is, I used to believe that in order to become really good at something, become successful at an endeavor, a skill, a craft, or maybe a gift that you're naturally endowed with, but you have to do something with it to cultivate it, right? I believed you had to want it really bad. And wanting it really bad kind of equals trying really hard, right? I used to believe that. And maybe to some degree I do, but certainly I believe it far less than I used to. And it's been good for me to change my mind about that. Now, I don't know if it goes back 5 years. I know I've certainly believed that most of my life, but I'm just kind of grasping at straws at the moment. Put your answer down below. Do you have something that you previously believed that you no longer do? How far back does that go? So the reason why I picked this is because I am somebody who is an all or nothing kind of guy. And it used to make my dad roll his eyes at it. So I'm more like my mother in some ways, where I'm very disciplined. Once I have my mind set on something, I'm fixated on it, right? And I want it really bad. I obsess over it, and I come up and I devise some sort of way to get from point A to point Z. Right? I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make it happen. If anybody tells me that I can't, I'm even more determined to make it happen. And I've done this with numerous things. And I can't say that it's really borne any fruit, as in I'm not so sure that I've become excellent in any given area to prove that my theory was right. Now, that's not why I changed my mind about it, but there's something to that. I've read maybe a score of biographies on U.S. presidents. I find it fascinating. And it's interesting to see where they came from and how they got to the position that they eventually did. And it doesn't matter if I like the president, it doesn't matter if I agree with their politics or not. There's something to attaining that office or anything of that caliber that you have to kind of sit up and pay attention to. And this is one of the problems I think people have nowadays, is they think they have to agree wholeheartedly with somebody before they can respect them, before they can learn from them. No, you don't. You don't. You don't have to align yourself in many ways to understand that there's this essence, this quality to people that you can appreciate. But besides all that, I read these books and I'm amazed at how many men rose to a position of prominence and never desired that destination point. In fact, they, in many cases, rejected the idea of taking on the responsibility and the role of presidency of successful inventors, CEOs of corporations, you'd be surprised at how many men that are uber successful didn't really want it that bad. In fact, they didn't even really try that hard. Now, it doesn't mean there wasn't some effort put into it. It doesn't mean that they weren't good. It doesn't mean that they would advocate idleness, laziness, an inability to apply yourself. It's not that. It's not that. It's just that life has a way, or I would say God has a way of positioning people to be in the right place at the right time, around the right people, to make everything to come together the way it should. And no matter how much you want something, it doesn't mean it's for you. And it doesn't mean that you'll get what you want. If that was the case, I would be living an entirely different life. Right? We see these UFC fighters, we see these athletes at the end of a game or at the end of a fight, and they're interviewed and they say, what do you think got you here? Well, I wanted this more than anybody else. That's what they say. Well, no, that's not true though. We all want something. We all try to position ourselves, and we all apply ourselves, and it doesn't always go down the way we want, because it was never for us to begin with. So that's one aspect of all of this. The other is, I think it's good from time to time to question what we believe. I'm not saying turn your back on what you believe. I'm saying be willing to question things. And if what you believe is right, if what you believe is true, you'll grow stronger in it. You'll become a lighthouse for others, a beacon, a North Star. Because you will have allowed your mind to run the gauntlet, and you will come out the other side, and you know how to answer the questions in your mind, you know how to overcome them, and you know why you believe what you believe. And it's okay if you change your mind about some things, right? And one of the things that we have to understand too is our experiences in life largely shape what we believe, but our experiences don't necessarily have to do that. And I would actually caution you about allowing your experiences to completely shape what you believe, because experiences can be very misleading. All your experiences are not actually factual. A lot of them are very conditional, right? The things you had to do, and the ways you had to change, and the way you had to apply yourself, all that stuff might have been something that was necessary in that moment, but it doesn't have to necessarily change what you believe about a vast number of things, or the way you live your life from thereafter. But we run into people like this, don't we? Well, I once saw this, or I once went through this other thing, and I no longer believe this over here, because if that was the case, and then it would have gone down different, right? We can think of examples like that, right? But no, your experiences don't have to, but experiences can help us glean something from all of it, and maybe they will shed some light. Just be careful about that. The other thing is being willing to change your mind. Questioning things and being willing to change your mind will make you more resilient. It also help you to become a little more empathetic, compassionate. It'll help you to understand how people can do that, whether you think they're doing it wrongly or rightly. But at least you'll understand how that happens. See, this is oftentimes where we stumble when we try to develop some kind of a relationship, whatever that might be, with other people. We think, well, I don't understand how they think the way they do. Well, it probably wasn't a straight line. I will tell you that. Probably wasn't a straight line. Things probably happened. They might have really questioned things, and that's what happens. The other thing I want to say, that there's a benefit to all this, is that if you find out that you have the ability to change your mind about something, it'll help you to realize that other people can do the same thing. I've mentioned, maybe already said it in this video, I'm probably going to say it again. One of the things we have a problem with in relationships with people, we have a problem with how they believe. We know that what they believe or what they're doing is wrong. We can't get them to change their mind, no matter how hard we try. In fact, the harder we try, the worse it is. But this will help us to realize that they can change their mind, and they might. There is hope. So what is it that you believed maybe 5 years ago that you no longer believe today? Have you learned anything from this? Have you found this valuable? If you didn't, then I hope you change your mind. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate each and every single one of you. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. In the meantime, be wise.